Okay, good evening everyone, and we are back in the weekly Parsha. PARSHAS TERUMAH, which we know is very well, is the building of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle in the Midbar. Now, in order to be able to build a Mishkan, which is going to be a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it requires a lot of very specific and detailed types of materials from the physical world. One of the materials that was used, and it was used quite extensively, was what is called atzei shitim. The pasuk tells us in the beginning of the parsha, "Va'aris elim ma'adamim, va'aris techashim, va'atzei shitim." The Jewish people gathered together the atzei shitim, the shitim wood, the acacia wood, or maybe it's translated as the cedar wood, a special kind of a wood. And there was a lot of the Mishkan that was built with this. The Aron, which would house the luchais, was made out of the atzei shitim. The poles which they used to carry the Aron was made out of the atzei shitim. The walls of the Mishkan, the crushing themselves, the planks and the walls, they were made out of the atzei shitim, out of the cedar wood. The mizbeach hanechoshes, the copper Mizbeach altar, which was first made out of wood, and then it was covered with copper, made out of this kind of a wood. And the poles that would go into there was made out of wood. The shulchan, the table that had the lechem upon him, the showbreads, made out of this wood. So this wood was perhaps maybe the most used part or kind of ingredient, so to speak, material that was used in the Mishkan. So Rashi asks a very simple question and an obvious question that requires a very good answer. Rashi asks, Umi ayin hayulah b'midbar. Where did they get? These are cedar trees. These are gigantic trees. I was just on vacation. I was just in Palm Springs. I was in the Midbar. I was in the desert over there. There are no cedar trees growing in the Midbar. There's trees about this tall. There's like no leaves. The wood looks like it's 1,000 years old. And it can somehow just survive on the little bit of nourishment that it gets. But a cedar tree is a gigantic tree, has big roots, has big branches, it needs water, it needs to be in a place with fertile soil. So asks Rashi, where in the world did the Jewish people get these atzei shitim, these trees, while they're wandering around in the Midbar? Where did they find them? So Rashi quotes a Midrash Tanchuma, and I want to read you the Tanchuma, read you the Midrash inside. The Midrash says the following: Umeheichen hayu akrashim. From where did they get the big planks to make the walls of the Mishkan? And really it goes on everything that they use the wood for, all the different things that we mentioned. Yaakov Avinu nata oisam b'shash sheyard leMitzrayim. When Yaakov Avinu came down to Mitzrayim, came down to Egypt, he planted these trees. Omar lebanav, he said to his children, Bana, my children, asidim atem lihigoyel mikan. In the future, you're going to be redeemed from Egypt. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu asi loimer lechem. And in the future, Hashem is going to say to you, Misha'atem nigalim, when you get redeemed, Sheta'asu le'asa mishkan, I want you to make for me a mishkan, you have to build a tabernacle. So therefore we have to plant the trees now, because at the time that Hashem's going to give you a tzivui, a command to build the Mishkan, you arazim mesukanim lechem, so these trees are already going to be prepared for you. Let's just understand what is going on over here in this Midrash, so that we can kind of put this in perspective. Yaakov Avinu has been missing his son Yosef Atzadik for the last 22 years of his life. He was in misery for 22 years. There wasn't a single ounce of Ruach HaKodesh, of divine spirit that was resting on him. He was in misery. Finally, he gets the word, Yosef is alive. Yosef comes and he sees him and he's restored. The Shekhinah comes back, the Simcha comes back. He's in a good mood. But he's told, you're leaving Eretz Yisrael and you have to go down to Mitzrayim. Yored leMitzrayim, you're going down to Mitzrayim. Eretz Yisrael is a land that's up here. Mitzrayim is down here. When you leave Eretz Yisrael, you're going down. You're not going up, you're going down. And Yaakov Avinu knew very well that when he goes down to Mitzrayim, this is going to be the beginning of the galus, of the exile of Klal Yisrael, that they were already prophesied to Avram Avinu when he was told for 400 years, you're going to be servants and slaves in a land that you don't know. Yaakov Avinu understood going into Mitzrayim means we're going into the galus, we're going into the exile. And he knew what that means because he warned his children. He told them, you live in the land of Goshen. You stay away from all of the Mitzrim. You keep to yourselves. You remain Yidden, because the moment that you step out of the bounds and you go into Egypt proper, you're going to be in big trouble. You'll see the lights and the sounds and the wonders. You'll assimilate. You'll be attracted to it. So Yaakov Avinu knew what's going on. He knows that this is a very dark period in the history of Klal Yisrael. Going down to Mitzrayim means galus, means exile. It means assimilation. It means avodah zarah. It means really falling down to the 49th level of a tomb of impurity, almost drowning in the impurity and never getting out of Mitzrayim alive. So he's on his way out. Saying, let me just take a few last things before I leave Eretz Yisrael. So you take your clothes for the night, you take some money with you, you take what you need, and Yaakov Avinu said, no, something else I have to make sure. Yaakov Avinu said, when I go down to Mitzrayim, we're planting these trees. Because one day, there's going to be the end of the galus, there's going to be a geula. One day, Klal Yisrael is no longer going to be slaves. They're no longer going to be drowning in Tumah. They're going to go free, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make nisim and iflai, signs and wonders, and it's going to be a geula, redemption, like nobody could ever dream of and imagine. And after all of that, you're going to go into the Midbar. And when you go to the Midbar, Hashem's going to make another nace called Maimir Har Sinai. You'll receive the Torah. And after you receive the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to say, there needs to be a place where I can always come and be in this world, so that Klal Yisrael can always come and visit their father from Shemayim down here in the world amongst you, and you'll feel and you'll see and you'll know the Shekhinah, and you'll be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a masterful, an unbelievable way. But in order to build that Mishkan, said Yaakov Avinu, we need to have this wood, the acacia wood, the atzei shittim. So he planted it when he came to Mitzrayim. And he left a message for all of his children. One day you're going to leave. Make sure you take the trees together with you. I can't imagine it was very easy. There were these gigantic trees. They had to fell the trees. They had to chop them down. They had to carry them on their backs. They had to carry them on their donkeys, on their camels. They had to schlep them into the midbar. But Yaakov Avinu said, you need them because through them, you're going to build some of the most valuable parts of the Mishkan of the tabernacle. What does that mean was going on in the mind of Yaakov Avinu? As he's leaving Eretz Yisrael and he's going into galus, he's going into exile. It's really like the beginning of the end of the Jewish people. Yaakov Avinu is only thinking about the geula, the redemption. Yaakov Avinu is not thinking about the tragedies of the galus, the hardships of the impurities, the assimilation that will take place. Yaakov Avinu was not focused in on all of the negative things that are going to happen to his nation, all of the tragedies and the horrific plans that the Mitzrim had that they did, killing all the firstborn, making us work like slaves to back-breaking labor. He wasn't thinking about that. Yaakov Avinu was a visionary. And the vision was, you're not going to be in galus, in the exile forever. You're not going to be a slave forever. You're not going to be at the bay of the Mitzrim forever. You're not going to be swimming around in 49 levels of Tumah. One more second that you would be there, you'd be stuck forever. No, says Yaakov Avinu, there's going to be a geula. And when that redemption comes, you're going to march out with pomp and circumstance into the midbar. And after the Torah is going to be given, Hashem is going to give you another command. Build the Mishkan. Make me a Migdash and I will dwell inside of it. But in order to build the Mishkan, you need a lot of wood. And you're not going to find wood in the midbar, in the wilderness. It just not going to happen. So you plant it now, and when you're ready to leave Mitzrayim, on those days, and there was so much that was going on. Korban Pesach, the Seder, the blood on the post of the house. There was all the mitzvahs, there was Klal Yisrael coming together as one. But before they left, take the wood. Because this wood is not the wood of Gullus. This is the wood of Geula, of redemption. Yaakov Avinu is teaching us a very important concept in life. And that is that when you are in the dark moments and when you are in the gullus and when you are in the places that you wish you would not be, you have to be looking someplace else because you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can and always will bring a geula to Klal Yisrael. And He will bring a geula, He will bring a redemption to each and every one of us. There's a beautiful ma'isa of a yid that was traveling on a train. It was in the years of the wartime years in World War II, and it was very dangerous to be traveling here and traveling there, and you have to go incognito and travel on trains and try to make your way through the borders and so on and so forth. And it was a very tense time, very, very tense. And as he's on that train, he sees one fellow who's sitting there. Everybody's very tense. This one man, he's smiling. Everybody else is in very scoured faces, looking very upset. Everyone's on edge. One man is sitting there. He's smiling. And he looks like he's actually enjoying himself. And so this Rav, who saw him, could not contain his wonder. And he went over to this man. He says, "Can you tell me? You look around this train car over here. Everyone's scared. Everyone is frightened. Everybody's nervous. Everyone is in a bad mood. No one's smiling. You're smiling. Why are you smiling?" So if it would be 2024, he would pull out his earbud and he would say, "Take a listen to this." But it was 1933 or 1939. And he said, "I might be sitting over here, but in my mind, I am listening to one of the greatest symphonies that I've ever heard before. And therefore, I'm physically here. But my mind and my heart and my soul is someplace else. And that's why you see a smile on my face." Says Yaakov Avinu, "I'm not excited to leave Eretz Yisrael. I know what's coming. I know what's going to be in the gullus of Mitzrayim. I know that it's going to get very frightening over there, that at a certain point, it's going to look like we're going to be destroyed completely forever. You'll never hear from us again. However, ani ma'amin be'emunah shalem, I believe in the Ribbono Shel Olam that the gullus itself is going to be a causative thing that is going to bring the geula." So I'm only thinking about the geula right now. I'm only thinking about our redemption. I know that Klal Yisrael is not going to be there forever. And when we're ready to leave, when we're ready to go, we better make sure that we have everything prepared. What is that? The acacia wood, because from there you will build a majority of the Mishkan and its vessels that are going to be needed to serve Hashem. A person is never stuck in the dark. A person is never stuck in the gullus. There's always redemption. There's always geula that's right around the corner. Like Rav Hirsch says, that you look up in the sky and it's stormy skies. There's thunder, there's lightning, the clouds are dark, the rain is pouring down. It looks terrible, but all of you know. Now Rav Hirsch didn't know with this, but he understood. When you go on an airplane and they're willing to take the risk of flying through the stormy skies, what are they trying to do? They want to get above the clouds. Because once that they get above the clouds, no more rain, no more thunder, No more lightning, no more winds pulling you this way and that way. Clear, beautiful, sunny skies. Says Rav Hirsch, when you look up at that sky and you see the dark clouds rolling in and the thunder is pounding the universe and the rain is pouring down, you've got to know that right above the storm is a sunny day that is waiting for you. Yaakov Avinu was telling Klal Yisrael, you've got to know you're not going to go this forever. Klal Yisrael is not going to get stuck in Mitzrayim. There will be a better day, and we're going to prepare for it from the very beginning. As he's Yored LeMitzrayim, he's going down to Egypt, which is the beginning of the Golus. He's thinking about the Geula. That's the koyach of Yaakov Avinu. That's the koyach of the krushim, of the acacia wood, of the atzei shitim, and that's why the Aron is built out of it, and that's why the shulchan is built out of it, and the mizbeach where they would offer their offerings to Hashem is built, and all the walls that protect is built out of it. Because these are not woods of the Golus. This is wood of the Geula, of the ultimate redemption. There's a midrash towards the beginning of PARSHAS that says over the following words. The midrash says like this: Amar Rabbi Chia Rabbi. Rabbi Chia Rabbi said, "Mitchilas briyasa shel olam," from the beginning of the creation of the world, Tzafa Kodesh Baruch Hu Beis Hamikdash Banui v'Charavu Banui. From the beginning of creation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked out into history, and he saw the following: Beis Hamikdash is going to be built. Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. Beis Hamikdash is going to be built. Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. And he goes on and he quotes that Rabbi, that in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he looked out, he saw all this that was going to take place. Building, destruction, waiting for the ultimate, when there'll be a Mashiach, when there'll be a Geula, and the third Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt. So the Mefarshim on this midrash ask, Hashem, if you know that when it's going to be built, it's going to be destroyed, why go through all the trouble of building the Beis Hamikdash? And if you did it once and you know it's going to get destroyed again, why do it a second time? If it's only going to last temporarily in this world, ultimately you're waiting for the main Beis Hamikdash number 3. So just wait and let the third one come along. Why make us go through? Anybody ever been to the tunnel tours in Yerushalayim? You've been by the Kaisa, by the Wailing, by the Western Wall over there. You see, they show you what it took to build the Beis Hamikdash. It was no small job. It was gigantic, enormous, required hundreds of thousands of people of manpower. And miracles that took place, the engineering and everything behind it. It was an impossible dream. But it was destroyed. So what's the point of building only to destroy Hashem? And you know from the beginning what's going to happen, so why would you do that? And they answer, because the truth of the matter is that every part of the process that Klal Yisrael is going to have to go through, whether it's the building or the destruction, whether it's the good times or the bad times, whether it's the Shloshim Regalim when all the Jewish people are there together as one, celebrating, basking in the glory of Hashem, or it's when Nebuchadnezzar or Titus came in and ran the place to the ground and burned it up in the smithereens. Every part of the process of the Beis Hamikdash and our history is a chelik in becoming the nation, the people that we are to be. And without the building, you'll never have a destruction. But without the destruction, you'll never rebuild. And therefore, says the Midrash, the nature of Klal Yisrael is that although there are the great times and there are the hard times, but all of that process, everything that we're going to go through, everything that we're going to be a part of, all of that is building and pushing and molding and shaping and bringing us to a place where eventually there's going to be a Geula, but a Geula can only come if there's a Golus, if there's an exile. There's no redemption without the exile. You have to think about that. Kodesh Baruch Hu brought Yetzias Mitzrayim. He took us out of Egypt That means we had to go into Egypt first. He took us out of bondage. That means we had to be in bondage. We had to be slaves. He lifted us up on the wings of eagles and he made us the Am Segula, the treasured nation. That means that before that we were drowning in the quicksand of impurity and we were enslaved by the Egyptians. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this Geula that I'm going to take you on is going to be something so fantastic, nobody could ever dream of it. But you are only redeemed if once you were enslaved. Only if you were once in exile. Look at the great euphoria of Klal Yisrael this past week. That when the IDF went in and they ran this risky rescue mission. They put all their lives on the line in live fire in the den, the lion's den, because their intelligence told them there's 2 hostages that are being surrounded over here. And if we could just get in and wipe out all the terrorists that are there, we'll rescue them, we'll save them, and we'll bring them home to their families. And so in tremendous bravery and courage, they went in and they did the job. And Baruch Hashem, I don't believe there was a casualty to any of the soldiers. And they took care of, wiped out all the Hamas terrorists. And they rescued and they redeemed and they saved the 2 hostages. And if anybody watched the videos of the reunion with their families, if anybody saw the smiles on their faces and heard what they had to say, the simcha, the joy, the elation, the surprise of being freed was a simcha, was a joy that these 2 people probably never, ever knew in their life before. Because when you are a hostage for 130 days, and then you are redeemed, so that redemption is something that nobody could possibly imagine. Says Yaakov Avinu, we're going into the Golus right now. We're going into the fires of Mitzrayim. We're going into the dark places in our history. Hundreds of years we are going to stray in that land. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty. But, says Yaakov Avinu, because of that, there's going to be a Geula. And when there will be a Geula, Hashem is going to take you out and bring you into the wilderness. And in the wilderness, He's going to make you build the Mishkan. Think about it even for a moment. According to most of the Mefarshim, the reason that we received the command of the Mishkan, it comes really after the Chet HaEgel, after the sin of the golden calf. And we were punished after the sin of the golden calf. We would not be able to have the open revelation of the Shekhinah the way that we had it before the sin of the golden calf. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us so much. And He wants us to be able to have a place to connect with Him and be close to Him. So He says, you know what? Build me a Mishkan. V'asali migdash v'shechanti b'seicham. You make the Mishkan, I'll dwell inside of it. I'm not going to go away from you, says Hashem. So even the Mishkan is only because we made a mistake and we went down. When you make mistakes, when you go through the dark, then when you see the light, there's no simcha, there's no greater joy than that in a person's life. Says the Rabbeinu Yaina, going along these similar ideas, V'yesh ala beitech b'Hashem, someone who trusts in Hashem, he must remove himself from the gloom of his anguish. Why? You have to know that the darkness is the cause for the light that you're going to have in your life. You're gloomy and you're downcast and you feel bad for yourself. We are miserable because we feel so bad for the lot that we were given in life. Says the Rabbeinu Yonah, why are you getting so upset? Don't you realize that the darkness itself is the siba, it's the cause of the light that's going to come your way? And he quotes a pasuk from Micha. Al tismechi ayavti liki nafalti. My enemies should not rejoice over me because I fell, Because that I fell, kamti, I got up, kiesha b'chayshech, Hashem orli. Even though that I was sitting in darkness, Hashem was my light. V'amru Rabbi Yisrael, and he quotes the Midrash, Ilmole nifalti, if I never would have fallen, loi kamti, I never would have gotten up. Ilmole yeshavti b'chayshech, if I never would have sat in darkness, lahaya orli, there would be no light to me. I have just a very simple question on these words of the Midrash. The Midrash says, Ilmole nefalti, if I never would have fallen, loi kamti, I never would have gotten up. Just don't fall. If you would not fall at all, you'd already be standing up. A guy's walking down the street, and he's walking just fine. And he trips over a rock, and he falls, and he breaks his leg. And then they pick him up. He says, wow, if I never would have fallen over the rock and broken my leg, I never would have gotten up right now. What do you mean? You were already up. You're already standing. You're already walking. You were going through life. But the Rabbi Yoin is telling us this idea over here. A person has to appreciate that in the nefila, the falls of life, the low points of life, we would call them, the darkness that a person sits in their life, Lahaya orli, there would be no light. Because when a person is taken from captivity to freedom, there's no greater revelation of the light that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. When a person goes through a hard time and they overcome it, there is no greater ability that a person has to be able to see the chesed, the kindness of the Rebbeinu Shalom, that he was able to overcome such a thing. I remember quite a few years ago, I'm sure that I told over the story previously, but I was with my kids at a certain children's museum here in Los Angeles, and in this museum in Pasadena, they have a lot of bugs. Lots of bugs in cages and the like. So little kids love bugs. And so we're going around from cage to cage looking at all of these bugs that are there. And we come to the cage of a certain type of a beetle, something hissing beetle. If anybody remembers the name of that particular beetle, a hissing beetle. And we're watching this beetle. It looks like, Indiana Jones size over here. It's gigantic. And it is crawling all around with tons and tons of legs. And there's like a plank of wood that's going up to a rock on the top where the beetle is going to just relax. And the beetle's walking up, and my kids, their eyes are glued to the cage, and they're watching this beetle go up, 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 up. And as he's going up, 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 he loses his footing, which is a lot of feet to lose your footing on, and he flips over off, and he lands on his back. And everybody's watching. The kids are watching. I'm watching. But I noticed one thing. As the beetle is falling down, his legs are moving. His legs are moving like this. And he doesn't stop moving his legs. And as he falls onto the floor of this tank, suddenly his legs keep moving, and he's trying to get his bearing, and he keeps moving his body like this. And the next thing you know, he turns himself back onto his feet. And he brushes himself off. And he starts going up the wood again, and he makes it to the desired goal. He makes it to the rock. And I was thinking at that time of the famous words of Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, Sheva Yipol Tzadik, a tzaddik falls 7 times, they come and he gets up. Now anybody who knows the Hebrew language knows grammar. The grammar of this pasuk is very troubling. Sheva Yipol Tzadik, a tzaddik will fall 7 times, and the language of the pasuk should be, he will get up. If you will fall 7 times, you will get up. But the language in the pasuk is, Sheva Yipol Tzadik, a tzaddik will fall 7 times. He's getting up right now. Meaning, while the tzaddik is falling, he's already getting up. While he's getting in the field, while he's in the darkness, while things are not working out for him, he's already moving his legs, he's already trying to fight back and trying to get himself up. Says the Stipler Goin, If HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Klal Yisrael so much, He cares about us, He loves us, He wants what's best for our lives, so then shouldn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu make it that your life is going to be peachy keen, a bed of roses, always good? Why should I have struggles? Why should I have ups? Why should I have downs? Why should things not go the way that I want it to? Why should I get in myself in a situation where I'm struggling with my bechira and make the wrong choice? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you want what's best for me. If you want what's best for me, just let me keep going on the up and up. Why is it that a person can fall and does fall in life? Why? Says the Stipler, very simple. When a person falls, and they hit, sometimes Khalil has to be rock bottom, but if it's not rock bottom, you'll stop somewhere along the way. When you catch yourself on that fall, you begin to say, "Oi, I left that high place where I was." You know, it's like always maybe like 10 minutes after Ne'ilah. You're always like, "Wow, it was so amazing. 10 minutes ago, I was a Malach Hashem. I was in a different world." So whenever a person falls, they begin to remember, "Wow, I remember what it was like to be over there. I remember how I felt when I was up here. How am I going to get back there now?" Says the Stipler, you're going to have to work hard. So I'm going to start working and working. I'll be more serious in my davening, more serious in my learning, more serious in my shmiras einayim, more serious with all the different things. I'm working and working. Says the Stipler, you work so hard, you actually go to a place higher than where you were before. B'makayim shebalei tshuva oimdim, in a place where the balei tshuva stand, ein tzadikim gemorim yecholim lamed, even the most righteous of men cannot stand there. Because a Baal Tshuva doesn't mean a guy that went to UCLA, doesn't know what kosher food is, and then one day some rabbi comes along and says, "Hey, are you Jewish? Would you like to come and learn a class?" And the next thing you know, 6 months later he's off in Israel, he goes to yeshiva, grows long pays, wears a black hat, and now he's a Baal Tshuva. That's not what the Gemara means about Tshuva. About Tshuva, the Gemara means is someone that was holding in Yiddishkeit. They were learning Hashem's Torah, they were keeping His mitzvahs, they were doing all these great things, but they fell. They crashed. They burned. They made a mistake and they fell. And he remembers how good it was to be up there. And then he starts working and working and working and working, all so that he can get back to the place where he was before. Says the Stipler, you know what happens to that person? He worked so hard, he's going to go even to a higher level than where he was the time before. And that's why Rabbeinu Yonah says, quoting this Mishnah, Ilmolei nafalti, if I never would have fallen, loi kamti, I never would have got up so high. Because of the fall, which is the sibas ha'ora, which is the cause itself of the light and the goodness, because of that, that's why I'm so high right now. That's why I'm steiging. That's why I'm growing in ways that I never thought before. Said Yaakov Avinu to Klal Yisrael, I'm coming down into Mitzrayim. We're going to be in the Gullus, in the exile. It's not going to be pretty for hundreds of years. But you have to know that the Gullus, that the exile itself, that itself is going to be the cause of a geula, of a redemption. And in order for the redemption to hit its mark, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take us into the wilderness, and there in the wilderness he's going to say, build yourselves a mishkan. And you'll have to harness all your energies and all the materials, and you have to build an edifice in this world where the Shekhinah is going to be able to dwell. But wood is going to be a hard commodity to come by in the midbar, in the wilderness. Says Yaakov, I'm going to plant it right now. Because I realize that all of this that we're going to go through is what's bringing about the ultimate geula, the redemption. The hard parts of life that a person is going to have to go through is not something that is actually negative. It's actually something that is positive, because from that comes the light. From that comes the joy. Look at these hostages. You saw the simcha of them and their families. They probably were never so close to their families they were the moment they saw each other in that hospital. But it's only because they were, not that people should become hostages, but because they were taken and they were redeemed. Therefore, the euphoria is on such a heightened and a higher level. And that's what we have to remember for ourselves, that whatever it is that a person is going through in their life, whatever dark paths they have to walk down, whatever unknown they have to face, it's not a reason to crumble and freeze. It's actually a reason to realize if through this is going to be the geula, the redemption that I am going to achieve. There was a story that just took place not so long ago in Gaza. One of the commanding officers of his battalion was a frum Jew. He was religious. Most of the other men in this battalion were not religious. And they were in heavy battle. And it started off early in the morning and it went throughout the day. And as the day is going on, the commander, who's a frum person, a religious man, he realizes that if the sun is beginning to set and I did not yet put on my tefillin. And everybody knows the halacha, once that the sun goes down, tefillin is no longer a mitzvah, you cannot put them on. His tefillin were 20 feet away from him in a bag. But they're in the midst of an operation, and there's bullets flying all around, and it's extremely dangerous, and the rules in the army are you are not allowed to leave your post, you are not allowed to do anything, you cannot do what you want, you are there fighting for the lives and the sanctity of Klal Yisrael. So although the tefillin were 20 feet away from him, and he sees the sun overhead beginning to set, he was not able to put on his tefillin that day. When the operation was finished, he was very tzabrachin, he was very downcast. And so some of the soldiers came to him, they said, Commander, why are you so upset? We just had an amazing operation. Baruch Hashem, we came back alive. We did great things. Why are you so upset? He said, because today is the first day since my bar mitzvah that I did not put on tefillin. You don't know how much it pains me. I had no choice. We're fighting for our lives. But today is the first day in my life since my bar mitzvah that I did not put on my tefillin. The soldiers, not religious, they felt very bad for their commander. They saw how much it meant to him, putting on his tefillin, and how much it hurt him that he wasn't able to put it on. The next morning, the whole platoon woke up early to get ready for the new day. And the soldiers, the non-religious soldiers, came to their commander and they said, Commander, we're going to give you a gift today. And they came with him, and every single soldier in that battalion put on tefillin that morning in honor of their commander, although they don't realize it's in honor of Hashem. So, the day before, very distressing, very disappointing, very painful. From the day of his bar mitzvah, the man never missed a day of tefillin. But that itself was a sibas, or that itself was the cause of all of the light of who knows 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 soldiers who never put on tefillin. They all put on tefillin that next day. Says Ben Yoina, says Chazal, says Yaakov Avinu, this is the way that a Jew has to live their life. That even when they don't see and they don't understand why it's going on, what is going on, they have to realize, I'm falling, it's difficult, it's dark, but there's a reason. And it's going to be a cause for something much greater. It's going to take me to a new level, a new madrega in my life that I never was at before, because Hashem would never put me down unless He wants to bring me up. He would never make me sit in darkness unless He wants to bring the light. He would never make me a hostage unless He wants me to be free. And therefore, Yaakov Avinu is teaching Klal Yisrael, with these krushim, with this wood, the acacia wood, the atzei shitim. A Jew always sees the geula while he's in the gullus. We're not Jews that our minds get trapped in gullus. We always see above and beyond, and we see much more than that. There's a maisa with a businessman, a Hasidic businessman, who came to the Rebbe, and he told him he's going on a big journey to Europe, and he's got a lot of money to make and a lot of deals that he wants to take care of. He said, Rebbe, can you give me a bracha? I should be matzliach, I should succeed. The Rebbe said, I'll give you a bracha. He gave a very, very warm blessing. He said, but it's contingent on one thing. He said, I heard that in that region of Europe, there's a specific kind of a cigar. You can only get it over there. I want you to do me a favor. When you go to there, please try to find these cigars. He told him a name. I'd like to have a whole box of those cigars. The Chassids thought it was a very peculiar request of a Hasidic Rebbe to have a box of cigars, but the Rebbe asks. You don't ask any questions. So the man goes on his business trip, and he's busy making deals and this and that, and he's looking around every day to try to find these cigars for the Rebbe. Finally, like the last day of his trip, he ends up in some small town. He goes into a store. He sees a bunch of cigars. He says, you have this cigar? Yes, we do. He buys a box, and he brings it back to the Rebbe. When he comes back to the Rebbe's private chambers, he says, Rebbe, I went. Baruch Hashem, your bracha came true. I had an amazing trip. I made a lot of money. Here are the cigars that you asked for. And the Rebbe smiles and he says, do you think that I want cigars? But Rebbe, you asked. Said, do you think that I'm going to smoke cigars? I'm not going to smoke. So then what? He says, because I knew you're going away on business. You're going to be far away from your wife and your children and your home and your shul and your kehillah and from me. And I know that when you're out there on your own, not so easy always to withstand the challenges of life that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends your way. There's a lot of Yetzaharas on business trips, on those journeys you're going to take. So I wanted you to remember one thing every day. I want you to remember me. And that way, wherever you would end up going in your journeys, whenever you would get into a situation, the sun is going down, it's time for mincha, you're on the middle of a road someplace, and there's no shul around, and you think, I'll just keep driving. I wanted you to think about the Rebbe, and you would stop and you would daven. When you found yourself in a business deal that was a little bit shady, and maybe you were about to do something that you should not have done, I wanted you to remember me every single day, and you control yourself. The cigars was just an excuse that you'd have me in your mind all day long. And the man told him, Rebbe, kach, that's true. Because of that, it was matzah, it saved me from many, many, many things that I was going to do wrong. HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts a person in situations because it's for their best interest, even when it's dark, even when it's nefalt, even when I fall, even when it's gullus, even when it's exile. He's doing it because he wants us to remember him. What's the Mishkan? The Mishkan is the tabernacle in this world that even after Achet Ekel, the sin of the golden calf, Hashem says, don't forget about me. And if you don't forget about me, I won't forget about you. Yaakov Avinu didn't forget about us. The Ben Yoina, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't forget. There'll be a building, there'll be destruction, there'll be a building, there'll be a destruction. It's all part of the program. All of that is the build-up for a person. There's a singer in Klal Yisrael who has a beautiful, Shlomi Gertner, he's English, has a very beautiful, angelic, melodic voice. And he tells over the following story about himself. When he was a young man, 21 years old, his wife had just given birth to their second daughter, And he was in the hospital for the birth, and then he had another daughter at home. He had to run home and go take care of his daughter. He's coming home, he's euphoric, he's so happy, a child, everything. A short while after he is home, he gets a call from the hospital, Mr. Gertner, you need to come back right away. There are some issues you need to come back right away. Well, what does that mean? Come, when you come, we'll tell you. He goes running back to the hospital, and as he comes in, he meets the case manager of his child's case. And they say, Mr. Gertner, we're so sorry to share with you. When your daughter was born, she lost a lot of oxygen to her brain. Your daughter will most likely never talk. She will not function like a regular child. She's going to have some kind of retardation all of her life as a result of the loss of the oxygen to her brain. He says, you can't imagine. He says, you're 21 years old. You're so excited. This is the baby, and suddenly your whole world just turns on its head when you realize that you're going to have a child that is never going to be healthy, is always going to be demanding. You're always going to take care. You don't know what's going to be. How are we going to live with this? How are we going to be able to handle such a thing? And he and his wife, they were broken, understandably. So they were in England, and he tells his wife after a few days, I need to go to Eretz Yisrael. I need to go to my Rebbe, the Hasidic Rebbe, the Yeshua's Yaakov, I believe is his name. I need to get a bracha, and I need to get chizuk, to get strength from him, that you and I are going to be able to handle the challenge that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. So he goes to Eretz Yisrael, he takes a car to Bnei Brak, and he walks into the private chambers of the Yeshua's Yaakov, his Rebbe. And he says, Rabbi, he tells him the whole story. He says, I'm not asking for a nace. I'm not asking you to make a bracha, to give me a blessing that the baby's going to get better and a miracle will take place and she's going to be normal. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking one thing. Please, give me a blessing that my wife and I should have the strength to be able not just to withstand the challenges that this means, but to actually grow and see the light in the challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has sent us. So he said, the Rebbe takes his hand, and he's holding his hand like this, and he's just, with his eyes closed, for several minutes, eyes closed, thinking and thinking and thinking. And when he opens his eyes, he says to his Talmud, to his student, Shlomi Gertner, Rav Shlomo, I give you a bracha, exactly what you are asking for. That you and your wife should take this nisayon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you, and you should grow, and you should elevate yourselves, and you should see the goodness, and you should see the light that Hashem has in store for you. He goes back, he said, from that bracha, he came back charged up. And he gave it over to his wife. And the daughter is Malki. Malkala is her name. And he told her, Malkala, she's going to be our princess. She's going to be our queen. We're going to take such good care of her. She's going to be the center of our attention. We're going to build the family. It's going to be so beautiful. We're going to get the other kids involved. It's going to be amazing what we're going to do. And he says one night, when she's 2 years old, he's giving his daughter Malki a bath. And she is having a tantrum on the highest level in that bath, screaming and yelling and screaming and yelling and crying. She can't come. No matter what he does, he cannot calm her down. Finally, after trying and trying, he takes her out of the bath and he holds her tight. And he begins singing a song that just fell into his head. He says, Oy Malkala, Oy Malki. And he starts singing this song over and over and over again. And his wife comes running in. She says, Shlomi, what song is that? He says, I don't know. The song, the niggin, the tune just fell into my head. And it's her name, Malki. Oh, Malki, oh, Malki, lo. And the girl stopped crying. And she's listening to her father's every word that he says in this song. So the wife said, Shlomo, you got to record this song. She said, 2 reasons. Number 1, our daughter stopped crying. We need this song around the house. Number 2, it's so beautiful. Maybe you'll put it on your new album. He was in the midst of recording his first album. He records the song, whatever, on a tape recorder. He leaves England. Shortly after that, he goes to America, to the house of Yossi Green. Yossi Green is from one of the greatest composers of our time. And it's the first album that he's making, and Yossi Green is a mastermind of making songs, and they're sitting around trying to come up with some songs. He says, Shlomo, tell me something about yourself, about your family. Maybe there's some inspiration we'll get. He says, I'll tell you. I have a daughter. She was born with not enough oxygen to the brain. She is impaired. She is a very special, precious young girl. She's the love of our life. Just a few weeks ago, she says, I was with her in the bath. She was having a hard time coming down, and I sang the song, and he sings the song, Oh Malki, Oh Malki Lo. And Yossi says, wait a second. And he sits down at the piano, and his fingers start flying all around. 20 minutes. I got it. I got a song. Thank you, Hashem, I have a new song. And he writes a beautiful, beautiful song that has O Malki Malkala is the refrain. This became one of Shlomo Gertner's most famous songs that he ever recorded. But not just that. Because that the song has such a story behind it. And because it's about their daughter and the struggles that they went through and the chesed that Hashem does with them, he says there's thousands of people around the world that have their own struggles, their own troubles, their own tribulations, their own children that are special needs children. And this song has given them so much strength that even in the darkness, you're able to see the or, you're able to see the light. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends a person's way, ilmalei nafalti, if I never would have fallen, leikamti, I never would have gotten up. What do you mean? Just don't fall. No, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you need to every once in a while. You can't have perfect life all the time. You can't have everything aligned, that everything aligns all the time, and it's going to be exactly the way that you want. Because when you get into that place of the darkness, you're going to fight to see the light. When you're a hostage, you're dreaming day and night of getting released. When you fell, all you want to do is get back up. Says Yaakov Avinu as he's coming down to Mitzrayim, says, you know what? I know we're not going to be here forever. I know that a day is going to come when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to redeem Klal Yisrael with signs and wonders and miracles. And when we leave Eretz Mitzrayim, we're going to go into the Midbar, and in the Midbar we're going to have to build a Mishkan, and the Mishkan requires a lot of wood. Where will we have the wood from? Says Yaakov, I'm in Golus, I'm thinking about the Geula, about the redemption. I'm in the darkness, I'm thinking about the light. I'm in a place where we can't even serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm thinking about the edifice called the Mishkan that we're going to build that is going to allow the Shekhinah to come into this world. If a person remains a Geula Jew, a redemption Jew, where he's always looking and seeing, you'll plant your trees, you'll stand yourself back up, you'll end up seeing the light, you'll overcome the challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. And in that zechus, just as Yaakov Avinu understood there's going to be a Geula, there'll be a redemption. And the redemption is going to bring about the building of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And the tabernacle will bring about the Hashras HaShechina, the dwelling of the Shechina in our midst. So Be'ez Hashem, if we remain the Geula Dika Yidden, we remain the Jews of Geula, redemption, so that too in turn will bring about the Geula. And the Geula is going to bring about the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And the Beis HaMikdash will bring about the Hashras HaShechina, the dwelling and the resting of the Shechina in the house of Hashem, which will be amongst us. The Asuli Migdash, make for me a Migdash, V'shechanti b'seicham, says Hashem, and I will dwell amongst you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. You're welcome.